The warning echoed through the great hall of Kepler Prime, but nobody listened. Elder Counselor Vashati stood at the center of the circular chamber, her ancient voice carrying across the vast space filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Her 4 arms gestured slowly as she spoke, each movement deliberate and careful. "There is one rule that has kept our galaxy peaceful for 3,000 years, she said, her large black eyes scanning the assembled crowd. "Never wake the sleeping giant. Never rouse the humans." Ambassador Zethkar of the Vrex Empire laughed, a harsh sound that clicked from his throat. His scaled green skin gleamed under the station's lights as he rose from his seat. Behind him, other Vrex officials nodded in agreement. They were tall, powerful beings with sharp claws and teeth designed for hunting. They had conquered 17 star systems in the past century. "Elder Vashati speaks of old tales and children's stories," Zethkar said, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "We have observed this species called humans for months. They are primitive. They fight each other constantly. They have barely left their own world." The Vrex ambassador activated a holographic display that showed Earth floating in space. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and small compared to the massive alien ships that surrounded the meeting hall. "Look at their technology," Zethkar continued. "They use chemical rockets to reach their moon. They have no energy shields, no plasma weapons, no faster-than-light travel. Their largest weapons are simple nuclear devices. A single Vrex battleship could destroy their entire military." Many of the younger species in the council chamber agreed. The Corax delegation chittered their approval. The Zentari representatives flashed their agreement through color changes in their skin. Even some of the older races seemed convinced by the display of human weakness. But Vashuti shook her head sadly. Her people, the Kalari, were among the oldest races in the galaxy. They had seen the rise and fall of many empires. Their long lives gave them perspective that the younger races lacked. "You see only what is on the surface," she warned. "The humans appear weak because they have not been tested. They fight among themselves because they have no external enemy to unite them. But beneath their simple technology lies something far more dangerous." "What could be dangerous about such a primitive species?" asked Commander Brix of the Corax. "Swarm." His insect-like head tilted to one side as his compound eyes focused on the elderly Kalari. Vashati was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper, but everyone in the chamber could hear her clearly. "They do not know when to quit," she said. "Other species fight until the cost becomes too high. Then they surrender or retreat. Humans fight until they win or until they die. There is no middle ground with them." She paused and looked around the chamber. 3,000 years ago, during the Great Silence, an entire star system simply vanished from all records. 27 inhabited worlds gone without a trace. The only clue was a single message found on a dead ship drifting at the edge of that system. It said, "We should have left them alone." The chamber fell silent. Even the constant humming of the station's life support system seemed quieter, but Zethkar was not impressed. "Ancient history and ghost stories," he said with another harsh laugh. "The Vrex Empire needs new territory. The human world has resources we require. If they surrender quickly, we will be merciful. If they resist, we will crush them." The vote was called. Despite Vashati's warnings, the council approved the Vrex request to expand into human space. The decision was not unanimous, but it was clear enough. The Vrex Empire was free to proceed with their plans. As the council session ended, Vashati approached the Vrex ambassador. Her ancient eyes looked directly into his. "When this ends badly," she said quietly, "remember that you were warned. The rule exists for a reason." Zethkar dismissed her with a wave of his clawed hand. "Your species has grown soft in your old age, Elder. You fear shadows and whispers. The Vrex fear nothing. Far from the council chambers, near the edge of human space, Captain Jake Mitchell piloted his small exploration ship through the asteroid belt beyond Jupiter. The vessel was called New Horizon, and it carried a crew of 12 humans on a routine survey mission. Jake was a former military pilot who had joined the civilian space program after Earth's governments finally agreed to work together on space exploration. He was calm under pressure and had a good instinct for danger. Those instincts were telling him something was wrong today. "Lisa, are you picking up anything unusual on sensors?" he asked his pilot and second in command. Lisa Brooks checked her instruments twice before answering. She was young but experienced, with quick reflexes and sharp eyes. "I'm seeing some strange energy readings near Europa, Captain. Could be equipment malfunction, but the patterns are too regular." In the engineering section, Ryan Carter looked up from his work. He was the kind of person who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. His hands were always dirty from working on the ship's systems, but his mind was sharp when it came to technology. "Those aren't equipment malfunctions," Ryan said over the communication system. "I've been tracking similar readings for the past 3 days. Someone's been watching us." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Earth had been listening for alien signals for decades, but this was the first time anyone had detected signs of actual alien presence in their solar system. "Set course for the energy source," Jake ordered, "but keep us ready to run if things go bad." The New Horizon changed direction, moving toward the strange readings near Jupiter's moon. None of the crew knew they were flying into a trap. The Vrex scouts had been watching human space activity for months, gathering intelligence for the coming invasion. As their ship approached the source of the energy readings, Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. Floating in space, partially hidden behind Europa, was a ship unlike anything humans had ever built. It was sleek and dark, with lines that seemed to flow like water. Energy fields shimmered around its hull. "Contact Earth immediately," Jake ordered. "Tell them we've found something they need to know about." But before Lisa could send the message, the alien ship powered up its weapons. Bright beams of energy struck the New Horizon, disabling their engines and communications in seconds. The human ship drifted helplessly as the alien vessel moved closer. Through the view screen, Jake could see movement inside the alien ship. Figures in strange armor were preparing to board his vessel. He looked at his crew and saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. "Remember," he told them, "we represent all of humanity right now. Whatever happens, we show them what humans are made of." The aliens were about to learn their first lesson about the species they planned to conquer. Unfortunately for the galaxy, it would not be their last. The Vrex invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark storm cloud. 200 warships spread across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with alien metal and crackling energy shields. Admiral Zethvar, brother to the ambassador, stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled with sharp teeth. "This will be over quickly," he told his officers. "The humans have no real defenses. We will demand their surrender within hours." But Admiral Kyle Harrison of Earth's Defense Fleet was not planning to surrender. Standing on the bridge of the battleship Guardian, he watched the alien ships approach with calm determination. Kyle was a veteran of Earth's last major war, and he understood that sometimes you had to fight even when the odds were impossible. "All ships, battle stations," Kyle ordered into his communicator. "This is what we trained for. Earth's defense." Fleet was small compared to the alien armada. 37 ships of various sizes, most of them converted civilian vessels with hastily mounted weapons. But every ship was crewed by humans who had volunteered to stand between their world and the invaders. The first battle lasted 3 hours. The Vrex ships were faster and more powerful, but the human pilots fought with a ferocity that surprised the aliens. When the human destroyer Defiance lost its main engines, Captain Nancy White ordered her crew to ram the nearest Vrex cruiser. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire that lit up space for thousands of kilometers. "Why do they not surrender?" asked Commander Crix on the Virex flagship. Their ship was doomed. They could have abandoned it. Admiral Zethvar studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. Human ships that should have retreated kept fighting. Crews that should have surrendered chose to die instead. This was not how conquered species were supposed to behave. The second wave of Vrex ships broke through Earth's orbital defenses and began landing troops on the planet's surface. Massive transport ships descended on major cities, disgorging thousands of Vrex soldiers in powered armor. They expected the human military to collapse once their fleet was defeated. Colonel Ben Torres crouched behind the rubble of what used to be a bank in downtown Los Angeles. Around him, 24 Marines waited for his signal. Ben was a career soldier who had served in conflicts around the world, but nothing had prepared him for fighting aliens. "Remember," he told his troops, "they're bigger and stronger than us, but they bleed just like anything else. Aim for the gaps in their armor." The Vrex patrol rounded the corner in perfect formation, their plasma rifles ready. They moved with the confidence of conquerors, expecting no real resistance from the primitive humans. That confidence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Ben's Marines opened fire from 6 different positions, their bullets finding weak spots in alien armor that human engineers had identified from captured equipment. 3 Vrex soldiers fell in the first volley. The others scattered, but they had nowhere to hide in the rubble-filled street. "Move," Ben shouted, and his team relocated before the aliens could return fire. This was guerrilla warfare at its finest, and the Vrex had no experience fighting enemies who refused to meet them in open battle. Across the globe, similar scenes played out in every occupied city. The Vrex had expected to face organized military units that would surrender when defeat became obvious. Instead, they found themselves fighting an entire population that treated every street corner as a potential battlefield. Dr. Amy Foster led a group of civilians through the subway tunnels beneath New York City. Amy was a medical researcher who had become an evacuation coordinator when the invasion began. She was not a soldier, but she was learning to think like one. "The aliens control the surface during the day," she explained to the group of refugees. "But at night, the city belongs to us. We move the children and elderly to safe zones. Then we help the resistance fighters." Pete Johnson nodded as he listened. Pete was a construction worker who had been installing building foundations when the aliens arrived. Now he used his knowledge of the city's underground to help people move without being detected. "My crew knows every tunnel and maintenance shaft in this part of the city," Pete said. "We can get supplies to any resistance cell that needs them." The Vrex had not planned for this kind of war. Their battle doctrine was based on defeating organized armies and accepting the surrender of defeated governments. They did not know how to fight a population where every civilian might be an enemy. Commander Crick stood in the command center that the Vrex had established in the ruins of the Pentagon. Holographic displays showed the tactical situation across Earth, and none of it made sense. "The humans have no central command structure left," he reported to Admiral Zethvar. "We have destroyed their military headquarters and captured their leaders. But the resistance is getting stronger, not weaker." The Admiral studied the reports with growing anger. Vrex casualties were mounting daily. Supply convoys were being attacked by humans using improvised weapons. Even their most secure bases were being infiltrated. "How can a primitive species be so difficult to control?" Zethvar demanded. His answer came from an unexpected source. On the communication screen, Elder Vashti's ancient face appeared. The Kalari counselor had managed to establish contact with the Vrex fleet. "I tried to warn you," she said sadly. "Humans do not have a surrender instinct like other species. When you attack them, they do not calculate the odds and give up. They become more dangerous." "Impossible," the Admiral snapped. "They are just one species on one world. We have conquered dozens of systems." "Those other species fought until the cost became too high," Vashti explained. "Humans fight until they win or until there are no humans left to fight. You have not conquered them. You have only made them angry." As if to prove her point, alarms began blaring throughout the Vrex command center. Human resistance fighters had somehow penetrated the heavily guarded facility and planted explosives. The building shook as charges detonated in the basement levels. Pete Johnson emerged from a maintenance tunnel with 5 other men, all carrying weapons taken from dead Vrex soldiers. They had spent 3 days studying the alien base, learning its weaknesses, planning their attack. "This is for everyone they killed," Pete said as he threw a grenade into a room full of alien equipment. The explosion lit up the night sky, and across the city, other resistance cells saw the signal. They emerged from hiding places in sewers, abandoned buildings, and subway tunnels. The real war was just beginning. Admiral Zethvar realized with growing horror that Elder Vashti had been right. The Vrex had not conquered Earth. They had only awakened something that should have been left alone. But it was too late to stop now. The Vrex Empire had committed too many resources to retreat. They would have to see this through to the end, whatever that end might be. In the ruins of human cities, resistance fighters counted their weapons and planned their next attacks. They had learned the most important lesson of warfare. The enemy could be beaten. Now they just had to prove it. 6 months after the invasion began, the war had changed completely. What started as a quick conquest had become a nightmare for the Vrex Empire. In hidden workshops across Earth, humans were doing something the aliens had never seen before. They were learning. Sarah Walsh worked by candlelight in the basement of a destroyed library in Chicago. Before the invasion, she had been an electrical engineer designing power systems. Now she was humanity's most valuable weapon designer. Spread across her makeshift workbench were pieces of captured Vrex technology, human electronics, and tools salvaged from the ruins above. The key is in their power cells, Sarah explained to the group of resistance fighters gathered around her. Vrex weapons use a different energy frequency than our equipment, but I figured out how to bridge the gap. She held up a weapon that looked like a human rifle merged with alien technology. Blue energy crackled along modified circuits attached to the barrel. This fires plasma bolts like their weapons but uses ammunition we can make ourselves, Sarah said. Each shot hits 3 times harder than their standard infantry weapons. Tom Baker, a former factory worker who now led the Chicago resistance cell, whistled in amazement. How many can you make? That depends on how much Vrex equipment you can steal from me, Sarah replied with a tired smile. The resistance had learned that fighting the Vrex required more than courage. It required becoming something new. Across the planet, humans were adapting in ways that confused and frightened their occupiers. In the mountains of Colorado, Maria Santos crouched behind a snow-covered rock and watched a Vrex patrol through her binoculars. Maria had been a police detective before the invasion, trained to think like criminals and catch them in the act. Now she used those same skills to hunt aliens. The Vrex patrol moved in perfect formation, just as they always did. They followed the same routes, maintained the same spacing, and communicated on the same frequencies. They were excellent soldiers, but they were predictable. Maria had spent weeks studying this particular patrol. She knew they would stop at the ridge ahead to scan for human activity. She knew they would split into 2 groups to cover more ground. She knew exactly when their commander would call for a status report. What the Vrex did not know was that Maria had spent the last month placing explosives along their route. Not random bombs, but carefully positioned charges that would funnel the surviving aliens exactly where she wanted them to go. The first explosion caught 3 Vrex soldiers in the open. The remaining 5 immediately took cover and began calling for support, just as Maria had predicted. They moved to defensive positions that offered excellent protection from conventional attack. Unfortunately for them, Maria was not planning a conventional attack. The second wave of explosives came from beneath their feet. Maria had spent days digging tunnels under their defensive positions. The aliens had superior technology, but they had never fought an enemy who could literally reshape the battlefield. Only one Vrex soldier survived the trap, and he did not survive long. Maria's team had positioned themselves perfectly to catch any stragglers. Within minutes, the entire patrol was eliminated and the resistance fighters were stripping the bodies of weapons and equipment. Package the power cells carefully, Maria instructed her team. Sarah needs them intact for her workshop. This scene was repeated thousands of times across Earth. Humans were not just fighting the Vrex anymore. They were hunting them with systematic precision that turned every alien patrol into potential prey. The change in tactics was noticed at the highest levels of the Vrex command. Admiral Zathvar studied casualty reports in his command ship orbiting Earth, and the numbers made no sense. Our losses are increasing every week, reported Commander Crix. The humans are using our own weapons against us with frightening effectiveness. How is that possible? The Admiral demanded. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They are not using their technology, Crix explained. They are using ours. Every weapon we lose makes them stronger. The truth was even worse than the commander, realized. In a hidden bunker beneath the ruins of NORAD, the most dramatic change was taking place. Captain Jake Mitchell sat across from his former captors in what used to be an interrogation room. Jake and his crew had been prisoners for months, but everything changed when a resistance raid led by Maria Santos broke them out of a Vrex detention center. Now Jake was conducting his own investigation, and his subjects were 3 captured Vrex officers. "Your fleet positions," Jake said calmly. "I want to know where every ship is stationed." The lead Vrex officer, Commander Rathka, stared at Jake with hatred. "I will tell you nothing, human scum." Jake nodded to Lisa Brooks, who was operating a device built from modified Vrex technology. The machine hummed quietly as it scanned the alien's brain patterns. "You do not have to tell me anything," Jake said. "Your own technology is telling me everything I need to know." The humans had discovered that Vrex neural interfaces, designed to link their soldiers with their equipment, could be reversed. Instead of human minds controlling alien technology, alien minds could be read by modified human devices. "Your fleet has 47 ships remaining in orbit," Jake continued, reading from the scanner display. 19 are damaged and operating at reduced capacity. Your supply lines run through the Jupiter system and you have only 3 weeks of ammunition remaining. Commander Rathka's face showed something Jake had never seen from a Vrex before. Fear. In the engineering section of the same facility, Ryan Carter worked with a team of human technicians to solve humanity's biggest problem. They had learned to use Vrex weapons and technology defensively, but they still could not leave Earth to carry the fight to the enemy. "The key is in their faster-than-light drives," Ryan explained as he pointed to holographic displays showing the interior of a captured Vrex ship. "Their engines use a quantum field manipulation system that our physics says should be impossible." "Can we build our own?" asked Dr. Amy Foster, who had expanded her role from medical coordinator to overall resistance logistics. "Better than build our own," Ryan said with a grin. "I think we can steal theirs." The plan was audacious even by human standards. Using intelligence gathered from captured Vrex officers, a strike team would infiltrate and capture an entire enemy ship. Not just the technology, but a fully functional starship that could carry human forces beyond Earth. As news of the plan spread through resistance networks around the globe, something remarkable happened. Humans who had been fighting separate battles began coordinating their efforts. The species that had been fractured and fighting among themselves before the invasion was becoming something unified and focused. Pete Johnson, now leading resistance operations in New York, received the message in his subway tunnel headquarters. Tom Baker got the same communication in Chicago. Maria Santos read it in her mountain hideout. Across the planet, thousands of resistance cells prepared for the largest coordinated operation in human history. The message was simple: time to take the fight to them. For the first time since the invasion began, humans were not just surviving or defending. They were preparing to attack. The Vrex had wanted to conquer a primitive species, but instead they had created something far more dangerous. They had created humanity's first unified military force, armed with alien technology and motivated by 6 months of systematic oppression. The galaxy was about to learn what humans could accomplish when they stopped fighting each other and focused on a single enemy. The captured Vrex cruiser drifted silently through space near Saturn's rings, its hull painted black to hide it from enemy sensors. Inside the ship's command center, Admiral Kate Sullivan studied star charts that showed Vrex territory spreading across dozens of star systems. Kate had been promoted from captain to admiral in just 6 months, not because of politics, but because humanity needed leaders who could win impossible battles. "Target confirmed," reported Commander Tony Phillips. From the tactical station, Tony had led the raid that captured this ship, and now he served as Kate's chief of operations. "Vrex supply depot at Kepler Station. 43 enemy ships, minimal defenses." Kate nodded as she examined the intelligence data. The depot supplied 3 entire Vrex fleets with weapons, ammunition, and spare parts. Destroying it would cripple their ability to maintain the siege of Earth. "How many ships can we field for this operation?" Kate asked. 12 captured Vrex vessels, all fully operational, replied Captain Nancy Gray from the communications station. Nancy was one of the few surviving officers from Earth's original defense fleet. "Each ship has a mixed crew of humans, and reprogrammed Vrex systems. The plan was typically human in its boldness. Instead of trying to match the Vrex ship for ship, they would strike at the enemy's weak points, cut their supply lines, destroy their bases, and force them to fight the kind of war humans were good at. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump," Kate ordered. "Time to show them what happens when you wake up the wrong species." The human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, heading toward the first target in what would become known as the Great Reversal. For 8 months, the Vrex had been the hunters. Now they were about to become the prey. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Resistance had evolved into something the Vrex could no longer control. In the ruins of Washington, D.C., Colonel Ben Torres coordinated operations from a command center built inside the destroyed Capitol building. The irony was not lost on him that humanity's greatest military victories were being planned from the symbol of their destroyed government. Phoenix team reports successful infiltration of the Denver command post, Ben told the assembled resistance leaders. Chicago team has eliminated the supply convoy heading to Los Angeles. Miami team captured an entire Vrex intelligence unit without losing a single fighter. Maria Santos, now serving as Earth's chief intelligence officer, added her report. "Our psychological warfare campaign is working better than expected. Vrex troops are requesting transfers off Earth in record numbers. Their commanders are reporting discipline problems and decreased morale." The psychological campaign had been Maria's idea. Instead of just killing Vrex soldiers, humans had begun leaving messages at attack sites. Simple words in the Vrex language that translated to things like "you should have stayed home" and "this could have been avoided." The effect on alien morale was devastating. The Vrex had expected to fight primitive warriors who would eventually surrender. Instead, they found themselves in a war against an enemy that seemed to enjoy turning their own tactics against them. Dr. Amy Foster, now coordinating medical and civilian operations across the entire planet, brought the most surprising news of all. "The Vrex are starting to abandon their smaller outposts," she reported. "They're concentrating their forces in major population centers, but even there they're staying inside heavily fortified positions. They're not patrolling anymore, they're hiding." Ben smiled grimly. "Good. When your enemy stops hunting and starts hiding, you know you're winning." But the real shock came from space. Admiral Kate Sullivan's fleet struck the Kepler supply depot, exactly as planned, but what happened next surprised everyone involved. The attack was not just successful, it was devastating. Human crews, using captured technology they understood better than its original designers, tore through Vrex defenses like they were made of paper. Tony Phillips led a boarding party onto the main supply station while Kate's ships destroyed the defending fleet in less than an hour. "This is impossible," the Vrex station commander gasped as Tony's soldiers surrounded him. "You are primitives. You have no spacefaring technology." Tony looked at the alien officer with cold amusement. "You're right. We don't have our own technology, but we have yours and we've made it better." The truth was exactly that simple and exactly that terrifying. Humans had not just copied Vrex technology. They had improved it. Sarah Walsh's weapons, modifications were being mass-produced in hidden factories. Ryan Carter's engine improvements made human ships faster than the original Vrex designs. Every piece of alien equipment captured by the Resistance was being reverse-engineered and enhanced. The news of the supply depot's destruction spread quickly through Vrex space. Admiral Zethvar, still commanding the Earth siege from orbit, received reports that made his blood run cold. 17 supply ships destroyed in the past week, Commander Crix reported. 3 more listening posts eliminated. Our forces at Colony 7 report human ships in their system. "How is this possible?" Zethvar demanded. "The humans were trapped on their planet." "Not anymore," Crix said quietly. "Intelligence suggests they have captured at least 20 of our ships and converted them for their own use. They are using our own vessels to attack our territory." The situation was worse than the commander realized. Across Vrex space, human strike teams were appearing in systems that had been considered completely secure. They attacked supply lines, destroyed communication relays, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The most frightening part was how quickly humans learned. Each attack was more sophisticated than the last. Each raid gathered more intelligence for the next operation. The species that had seemed so primitive just months before was demonstrating a capacity for rapid adaptation that terrified even veteran Vrex warriors. On a distant world called Zentari Prime, Elder Vashati received visitors she had not expected. The Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session, and representatives from dozens of species were demanding answers. "The humans have attacked 17 different star systems," announced Ambassador Frex of the Korax Swarm. "They are using captured Vrex ships to raid our territory. This madness must be stopped." Vashti looked around the emergency council chamber with ancient, tired eyes. "I warned you this would happen. The rule existed for a reason." "What rule?" demanded the Zentari representative. "You speak in riddles while our colonies burn." "The rule that kept the galaxy peaceful for 3,000 years, Vashati replied. "Never wake the sleeping giant. Never give humans a reason to leave their world and spread across the stars." The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The humans had not just survived the Virex invasion. They had learned from it, adapted to it, and were now using it as a stepping stone to become a spacefaring species. They were content to stay on their one world, Vashati continued. They explored their own system slowly and carefully. They might have remained peaceful neighbors for centuries, but you forced them to become something else. "What have we done?" whispered the Zentari ambassador. Vashati's answer was quiet, but carried clearly through the chamber. "You have created the galaxy's newest apex predator, and they remember every world that voted to approve their conquest." Back in human space, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship as it prepared for the next phase of operations. The captured supply depot had yielded intelligence about every major Vrex installation within 50 light-years of Earth. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," Commander Phillips announced. Kate looked at the star chart one more time. Humanity had gone from defending one world to raiding across multiple star systems in just 8 months. But they were not done yet. Not even close. "Set course for the Vrex homeworld," Kate ordered. Time to return the favor. The Vrex homeworld of Kretha had not seen war in 500 years. Its golden cities spread across 3 continents, protected by massive orbital defense platforms that had never been tested in real combat. Today, that was about to change. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, now renamed Retribution, as the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kretha system. 28 captured and modified Vrex ships spread out in attack formation, their hulls painted with Earth's flag and symbols of human resistance cells from around the world. "Orbital defenses are targeting us," reported Commander Tony Phillips. 67 defense platforms, each one capable of destroying a battleship. Kate studied the tactical display with calm determination. The defenses were impressive, but humans had learned something important during their months of raiding Vrex territory. The aliens built their weapons to fight other aliens. They had never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. "All ships, implement Pattern 7, Kate ordered. "Target the command platforms first." Pattern 7 was a human creation, born from studying how Earth's resistance fighters had defeated superior Vrex forces on the ground. Instead of trying to match the enemy's firepower, human ships would use speed, unpredictability, and calculated sacrifice to achieve their goals. The human fleet split into 7 groups and attacked from different angles simultaneously. The Vrex. Defense platforms, designed to engage organized fleets in traditional battle formations, could not track targets moving in such chaotic patterns. 3 human ships were destroyed in the first wave, but they accomplished their mission. The command platforms that coordinated the entire defense network were eliminated, leaving the remaining weapons to operate independently. "Second wave now," Kate commanded. More human ships broke through the confused defenses, targeting power stations and communication relays. Within 30 minutes, the orbital defenses that had protected Kretha for centuries were reduced to floating debris. But Kate was not planning to bombard the planet below. Humanity had learned the difference between conquest and revenge. They were here to deliver a message, not commit genocide, Open communications to the planetary government, Kate ordered. On the main screen, the terrified face of Supreme Commander Vexithol appeared. The Vrex leader's scales were pale with fear as he stared at the human admiral who had just destroyed his planet's defenses. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Federation," Kate announced. "1 year ago, your people voted to invade my world. You believed we were primitive and weak. You thought you could conquer us easily." Supreme Commander Vexthol tried to speak, but Kate continued without pausing. "You were wrong about us. We are not the same species you attacked. We have become something new, something you created through your actions. We are what happens when you give humans a reason to leave their world and spread across the galaxy." Behind Kate, holographic displays showed the devastation human forces had caused across Vrex territory. Destroyed supply depots, captured worlds, and fleets that had simply vanished when they encountered human raiders. "Your empire is finished," Kate stated simply. "Your military is broken. Your allies are abandoning you. But we are not here to destroy your world. We are here to make sure you understand the price of what you have done." The transmission ended, and Kate turned to her communications officer. "Send the message to every world in Vrex space and to the Galactic Council." The message was simple but devastating. It contained detailed records of every war crime the Vrex had committed on Earth. Every civilian killed. Every resistance fighter tortured. But more importantly, it contained proof that humanity now possessed technology and military capabilities that surpassed their former captors. Across the galaxy, species that had supported the Vrex invasion watched in horror as human fleets appeared in their systems. Not to attack, but to demonstrate that nowhere was beyond human reach. The message was clear. "We remember who voted for our conquest, and we are watching you." On the rebuilt Galactic Council station, Elder Vashati addressed an emergency session of representatives from the surviving member species. Many seats sat empty, as entire governments had fallen when their populations learned they had approved humanity's destruction. "The humans have offered terms for peace," Vashati announced. "They will cease all military operations if the Galactic Council agrees to 3 conditions." The chamber was silent as she read from the human demands. "First, the Vrex Empire will be dissolved and its territory placed under human administration. Second, any species that voted to approve the invasion of Earth will pay reparations to help rebuild human civilization. Third, humanity will be granted a permanent seat on the Galactic Council with full authority to veto any military action." Ambassador Frex of the Korak Swarm spoke with a trembling voice. "And if we refuse these terms?" Vashati looked around the chamber with ancient eyes that had seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. "Then you will learn what happens when you give humans both a grudge and the technology to act on it across interstellar distances." The vote was unanimous. Every species that remained in the council agreed to the human terms without debate. They had no choice. Humanity had demonstrated that they were no longer the primitive species that could be bullied into submission. Back on Earth, Jake Mitchell stood in the rebuilt office that had once been the Pentagon's command center. As humanity's first director of galactic affairs, Jake was responsible for managing relationships with the alien species that had once planned to conquer his world. Through the window, he could see the construction of humanity's first starship factory. Ships that combined human engineering with captured alien technology were being built to patrol the territories that had once belonged to the Vrex Empire. "The last Vrex holdout surrendered this morning," reported Maria Santos, now serving as humanity's Director of Intelligence. "Their remaining fleets are requesting permission to evacuate to neutral territory." Jake nodded as he studied reports from human colonies being established on worlds that the Virax had abandoned. Humanity was spreading across the galaxy faster than anyone had predicted, not as conquerors but as the new dominant species. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" Jake asked. "They're asking if we want to send a representative to their next session," Maria replied with a slight smile. "Apparently they want to discuss new regulations for first contact procedures." Jake laughed, remembering the warning that Elder Vashati had given so long ago. The galaxy had learned the hard way that some sleeping giants should never be disturbed. Tell. Then we'll attend, Jake decided. But we'll send our own ship with our own crew following our own rules. Outside his window, the first of humanity's new starships lifted off from Earth's surface, carrying human colonists to worlds that had never seen their species before. The galaxy that had once seen humanity as primitive prey was about to discover what it meant to share space with a species that never forgot an insult and never stopped improving. The one rule had been broken, and the price would be paid for generations to come. Humanity was awake, and they were never going back to sleep.